And after last week's semi-organised chaos, I said last race's semi-organised chaos, we find ourselves in Russia at the Black Sea GP, and hoping for some good results today. We are currently sitting 6th in the championship, and for some reason that's not popping up. There we go. We're currently sitting 6th in the championship for the constructors, and 11th and 12th with Kubica and Russell respectively. And that's pretty much all you need to know before we roll the intro, and then we'll get into the race and I'll show you some other stuff that's going on. Be right back. So I've not done a full tech update actually for a while. This is what's happening technically. We have built some new parts, wings, suspensions, etc, etc. This engine is new. Kubica's going to be running it today. It's not as reliable as I'd like it to be, but it'll get there. And we are improving parts left, right and centre to the point where our car kind of looks like this. We are 2nd from last overall, 9th overall. 9th best engine, 9th best acceleration, 9th best deceleration, 8th best on low speed corners, last on medium speed corners, and 8th on high speed corners. That's kind of things going on. We've still got the HQ developments ongoing, and yeah, that's pretty much all you need to know before we get into the race. I'm not going to upgrade these buildings just yet because money is running low. We've got to get some money in. We are going to pick the biggest number because why not? Tyres, high tyre wear. Feels like I'm going to want more tyres than that. That's about right for both cars, I think. No, there. Because I've got a feeling this is the race where you can go the whole way on one set of hard tyres. Right, guys. I'm going to go do practice, and then we're going to come back for qualifying and the race. Just a heads up, we're doing something a little bit different this week. I'm just going to record the race without commentating over it, and then do highlights, and I'll comment it over afterwards. So we'll see if that works. It might work. We'll see. So here we are, guys, into qualifying. Let's see what we can do. We've got perfect setups, as you can see, ready for the race and ready for a good qualifying session. Tyre choice, I mean, it's really a no-brainer here. Straight in with the softs. Just going to go straight through, get in with the softs, all done. Send the boys out. Just for a little bit of a sighter lap, we start off there quite easily, just to lay down some rubber. There's no, I don't have any expectations at the start of a qualifying session that we're going to put in a bomber of a lap. I just want to get some rubber on the track so we can grip it up a bit more. Ready for the end of the of Q1. So yeah, out we go. Get everything nicely warmed up. You know, do all those little bits. Obviously we've got the auto on. Quick skip, wasn't elegant, but you know, I told you I was editing this down because I needed to record the audio separately because magic. So into the first flying lap here. Kubica crosses the line first. Russell looking really racy though coming through, and you know, he really looked keen. He's looked really keen in qualifying all year. Really wants to be that number one driver at the team, and I think, you know, long term he probably is the number one driver at the team. So looking for a good first sector there. You know, it's respectable, but it's always going to go purple. Even at 18.5, it's going to go purple for George because he's the first one to hit a flying lap. But you know, like I said, just a sighter lap, just to kind of see where we're at, but laying down that rubber, just you know, getting ready to really push at the back end of Q1 and see where we can end up. So we're crossing the line there. George is well ahead. Bobby Kubica, you know, I just have my doubts about him. Always seems to deliver on race day, but I've got my doubts about him for next season for sure. Don't know if he's going to be in one of the main seats. He might drop down to test driver. I've got my eye on a few drivers, so we'll see how that ends up. And yeah, you can see there on that side lap we're still coming in 0.7 down for Russell on Hamilton, and a whole second and a half for Kubica. Already right at the outset, Kubica's just not a good qualifier. And yeah, quick little skip into, you know, our second start. Like I say, there's a bit of rain expected here, so I decided to send them out earlier than I usually would. Usually I try and go out in the last 2 minutes, but I think this is probably the grippiest the track's actually going to get in this session. We're really trying to get through this flying lap here before the rain hits, because that's going to really affect things. Don't think anyone who goes out past this point is going to have a dry track or a track that's got anywhere near the grip that the track has right now. Russell sitting in 13th though, Kubica dead last, so the only way is up for them really, and we'll see what we can do. Coming out the garage, getting them ready, warmed up, and we'll see what happens here. I say we'll see, I know, but you know, we'll see what happens here. Let's live in the moment. Crossing the line, George Russell's already pushing to get past Bobby Kubica here. 3 minutes left in the session, 3.5-ish minutes left in the session as we're going to cross the line. And George just goes for it. He's already well on his way. No time for Bobby Kubica, no respect, no need for standing on ceremony at all here. Just keeps going. And Bobby's trying to push, but George Russell just looks like he's got more pace at all times at the moment. And Kubica's doing well to stay alongside him, but there you go, George is just going to go for it now. Starting to get the first bits of rain on the track, it's going to affect our lap a little bit. Luckily it's a short lap, but in hindsight I think I'd have sent the guys out maybe sort of 30 seconds to a minute earlier. But you live and learn, you can't always get it right, you can't always trust the timings. It tells you what lap the rain's going to come down on. But we've improved our times. George Russell's about to cross the line, and he's got up into P11. Kubica's improved, but only by 0.2, and he's not going to make it through. There's a couple of drivers going out on inters, but frankly there's no time to be found on inters at any point in this qualifying really. So that looks like that's going to end our session, and we'll head into Q2 in a second with George Russell, because that's kind of where he's heading. Bobby Kubica gets to sit this next stage out. Unfortunate for him, but he's just got to be better in qualifying. He's disappointing me. He's scoring points every now and again, but he's really disappointing me in terms of just his general overall performance as a driver. But we'll see how this goes. There you go, confirmation. Giovinazzi, Stroll, Albon, Kvyat and Kubica out in Q1. And a few surprises there. Valtteri Bottas not had a great Q1. Sergio Perez probably not had the Q1 you'd expect of him. But it's going to make it interesting going into Q2 for sure. Giovinazzi, I think that's the first time he's not made out of Q1 the entire season. But there we go. That is your confirmed eliminations. And let's get into Q2 and see what we can do. The rain has stopped, but we can't trust the rain here in Russia. It just comes and goes as it pleases, I think. So again, we're going to send him out early for just to lay some grip down. You can see we're expecting a lot of grip to come onto the track. We're also expecting a little bit of rain later in the session. So it's going to be all about how we time it. I think in hindsight, I think I probably wouldn't use the softs up for these sighter laps, but it's just a habit. You send your driver out on the fastest tyre and hope for the best. But yeah, I think sometimes going forward when I send the sighter laps out, I just going to need to burn through a set of the harder tyres where possible and use that. So here we go, heading into the flying lap. To get out of Q2 would be great, but I think we're a long way off the rest of the field. I mean, we've got the 8th best car on the grid, or the 9th best car on the grid. Even being in Q2 is something of an achievement for us. But there's definitely a bit more to come, I think, in terms of performance. I think we're still improving the car. We're still doing everything we can. But yeah, we're a long way off the pace. It's going to be probably a season or two before we're really challenging the big boys. We're putting away as much money as we can to develop next year's car. We're starting to work on parts to kind of push the limits of the tech available. Just getting ready for next season, really. You know, a few of those riskier parts are going into development now, but these are the risks you've got to take because they'll become legal for the next season. And fastest lap for George, but let's not read anything into that because we know he is the first man through, and Lewis is going to put in a blinding lap, 1.2 faster than George. Lewis has been untouchable in qualifying, and it's kind of what you expect from him, really. You know, so even a big gap from him to Grosjean at this point is but yeah, there's a few big names to go out still. Vettel, Leclerc. You know, it's going to change as we go out for our second lap. Bit more grip on the track. Vettel in pole, or provisional pole, and a lot of ground to make up. Got to make up a half of a second just to get out of Q2 into Q3. And you know, it's a tall order. It's a tall order, but if any man can do it right now, it's going to be George Russell. He is the man in form. He is driving well above the car, frankly. He's making the car look way better than it actually is. So here we go, out of the garage, and we'll be back through in our flying lap in just a second. Hope he gets a good start. Keep your fingers and toes crossed. Can't get behind a slower Renault. Hopefully we'll get, you know, some clear air crossing the line, but he looks like he's chosen for the slipstream, which is probably wise strategy because their car is definitely fast enough. There was Hulk going through ahead of us, just completing his flying lap. But we'll see if George can improve on his times at all. He does seem to get a bit of fatigue going through qualifying, but you know, he's young, he'll learn, he's developing. Faster in the first sector, but still a whole second, or sorry, 0.6 of a second down. Which, you know, it's better, but it's not going to be enough to get us through. There's a lot of time to lose here. You see 1.0 down already. He's well out of Q2. So just, you know, looking for him to cross the line, hoping to get a bit of a good last push through just to take you off the 15th position. But 15th is acceptable, I think, for a team where we're at right now. 15th is more than acceptable, and that is where we're going to start the race. So things looking okay, acceptable, could be better, but we'll see how things look going into Sunday's race, I guess. As we come through there, confirmation that Seb Vettel has got himself on pole, 900ths of a second ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Gasly, Raikkonen, Norris, Perez and Russell are the men eliminated. And yeah, it's okay. It could be worse. So let's we'll skip ahead. We won't show the simulation of Q3 because there's nothing to gain there. And there we go. There's your confirmed top 10. Hamilton, Vettel, Leclerc, Bottas, Ricciardo, Verstappen, Magnussen, Grosjean, Hulkenberg and Sainz the top 10, followed by Gasly, Raikkonen, Norris, Perez and Russell, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Albon, Kvyat and Kubica. And some of the fans want me to retire, which is charming, really charming. We've had a poor qualifying session. We know we've had a poor qualifying session, but that's just the way these things tend to go for us at the moment. They'll improve. They will improve, and we go into the race ready to pick up those 5 red lights. which is what we really need right now. We're straight into the hard tyres, the race trim. That was kind of the best options we had. You can see there we've maxed out a lot of the information we had, but the hard tyres are really going to be what sees us through this race. Looking good on weather, looking good on setup. You'll see I'll make a little change here. I already took a few laps of fuel out of the car, so we're starting on the softs. They've got an 11 to 13 lap range, and the tyres progressively, you can see the ranges there. I took another 3 laps out of the tank. I'd already taken 3 laps out before I hit record, so we're actually starting the race 6 laps down on fuel. I had a long think about it, as you can see, but in the end I think I definitely decided to go with the 6 laps down strategy, because with the pace we've got in the car, I expect us to get lapped. You can usually rely on us to, if you stay on the middle fuel setting, you can recover about 5 laps worth of fuel at Black Sea. And yeah, it was very much a very aggressive strategy, starting light on fuel, give George a bit of a push on tyres, because as he's starting higher, I decided to bring him in a lap ahead of Kubica. Had a solid strategy laid out. I worked out where I want my pit stops to be. Always scope to make changes if it's going to affect, if you think it's going to improve your race position. But I think for me, it's always best to have an idea of strategy going into the race. You see the grid again. We've already been through it. It's good to have an idea of what your plan A is before you go to 5 red lights. And that's what we've done. Just let the grid roll by, because it's just nice. It's just nice graphic work. We like it a lot. It could be a good race. So here we go, ready to go to those 5 red lights. Get the Grand Prix off to a good start. I'm going to take the auto ERS off, because in the early stage of the race I do like to have control over it. It's good to be able to tell the guys to give that early push. We get straight off the line, Russell holding in 15th, but he's going to go for a big push through, taking 14th pretty much straight off, in for 13th as well, pushing onto Lando Norris. Really good start for George Russell. Robert Kubica got off the line really slowly. Does start to make up a place or two, but really nothing to the pace of George Russell, who's just been the star in the season so far, really. He's definitely my #1 driver going forward for at least next season. We'll see how things go beyond that. He's got 2 more seasons left on his contract. See there, Kimi Räikkönen running wide, very wide, which gives Kubica a chance to push up into 16th as the cars react around him. And George Russell pushing up into 12th, looking really good, and trying to get onto the back of Carlos Sainz, which, it's a pretty respectable place to be, because Carlos is one of the better drivers on the grid, in my humble opinion. Certainly one of those ones to watch for the future. I think he'll be around a while. And then we go pushing pushing for 11th alongside Valtteri Bottas, which is a sentence you shouldn't be able to say about a Williams driver, but he is wheel to wheel with Valtteri right up until Valtteri gets on the ERS, and we will follow suit very shortly. I like to not push the ERS as soon as the other drivers do, because when their ERS runs out, you like to think you've got a little bit left in the tank. Maybe you can get a good push past them, and if you hit it at the right time, that good push comes on a straight. You see the massive cars ahead of us, just an absolute bundle. I mean, that's what, 12th forward to about 6th. Good bunch of cars there. George overtaking Pierre Gasly, really good start for him. He's definitely going to start and force his way through, gets the elbows out to push his way into 10th, ahead of Norris, ahead of Verstappen. Starting to look like he can catch up to the little pack ahead of him, which takes us up to 5th, really, that pack ahead. If he can catch her, if he can get through, you see him going straight into battle with Carlos Sainz again. And if we can improve the car, that could be a good little battle going forward. I think Carlos Sainz is kind of at the level we'd hope to be for the start of next season. That kind of middle of the order, able to push for points on a regular basis, able to qualify quite highly, and you know, we're into lap 3 now, and we're not looking uncomfortable in the top 10. You look at the tyre wear, a lot of the cars ahead of us and behind us, seeing a lot of tyre wear. The guys who've had to sort of start on their quali tyres, I mean, you look at Verstappen, who's just dropped like a stone. He doesn't seem to know where his pace is coming from, and we're locked into an epic battle now with Carlos Sainz. You know, George really seems to fancy taking on the big boys. Really is a big game player, likes to step up and push as hard as he possibly can all the way through, which is good to see. You know, it's good to see he's racy. It's good to see that he's a man who likes a scrap, who'll fight for a position. And as we go through into lap 4, George starts to push away, but then Carlos comes back through, and you can see where the difference in performance is. We've got some good acceleration coming out of corners. We do start to pull away, but then once they start hitting sort of top speed, maximum revs, Carlos comes back like a lightning bolt, really. It's interesting to see where we need to improve our engine setup, where we need to improve our cornering setup. These are areas of the car that we need to work on as soon as possible, ready for next season, especially if we are going to start moving up the order in terms of car development, in terms of picking up more points. You know, I'd like us to sort of, as much as our aim was just to finish 10th this season, we've been hovering around 5th, 6th. I'd like us to be able to say for certain that 5th, 6th was the target for next season, rather than performing ahead of ourselves. I'd like us to be performing, you know, to be comfortable in the sort of 5th, 6th best team position, and looking to move up for the following year. But yeah, you know, we spend that time on development, spend that money on development. And George here coming through, he's still locked in battle there with the two McLarens. Doesn't look uncomfortable at all at any point, and that's always good to see as we come through. You know, lap 5, and then we're going to skip ahead a little bit to lap 6. You can see there Carlos Sainz going through a very early pit stop. Like I said, the window for us is sort of between lap 10 and 13 was kind of where the window was on our tyres. So to come in at the end of lap 6 is a very, very early pit stop. I think he's the only one that comes in on this lap as well. So he's pushed his tyres really hard, and George is still, you know, 0.5 of a second behind him, 0.6 of a second behind him. He's not looking like he can't keep up. So, you know, interesting kind of marker for where we're at. And Sainz, obviously, with the pit stop, is going to start dropping way down the order. I think he actually ends up dropping right to the bottom of the order, because, you know, it's only a 20-second gap from first to Kvyat and last. And Lewis, look, running away with the race at this point as well, 4.5 seconds ahead already. I'm going to skip forward now to lap 9, where we start seeing a few more guys making. We're preparing to make pit stops. You've got to see Magnussen ahead of us is about to come in. We're going to push through one last lap. We're going to try and make the overcut work. You see there, I was thinking about whether or not we push the fuel, whether or not we push the tyres, whether or not we push the hybrid mode. Whole bunch of considerations there. We're going to go around for a lap. We're going to see if we can get a good push on us, just to guide us through a little bit of ERS, attacking on the tyres, because we know this is where we're going to come in. We're going to move on to a set of hards, do a long sort of first or second stint, I suppose. It is going to be a straight up 3-stop race. There is no way of doing this any shorter than a 3-stop race. I did a lot of maths on the strategy, and even if I really conserved tyres, I mean, we'd have lost a lot of temperature anyway. But even if we really conserved on the tyres, I just don't think we were going to get anywhere with that kind of strategy. There was no benefit to trying to do it as a 2-stopper, and you know, George is pushing hard. His tyres are going to start to go off the cliff a little bit towards the end of this lap, holding off Lando Norris. But Lando obviously is a long way off needing to pit. He started on the hard tyres. Perhaps a wiser strategy, but I felt like we needed that pace off the line, because otherwise we'd have just been hanging around at the back. We wouldn't have been anywhere near 7th. You see Kubica's in 10th as well, just with the pit cycle. Hulkenberg, Sainz, Verstappen and Magnussen having already come in for fresh tyres. Although Sainz came out of the pits on a set of scrubs, which is an interesting strategy. I think they've kind of ruined his strategy a little bit, or ruined his race a little bit with this strategy. It's just not... you go from a set of very worn tyres to another set of scrubs. You're not going to find that pace there. You're essentially going to add a stop, and we start getting ready to bring in Kubica literally as soon as George hits the pit box. Gives us a chance to push Kubica through. George with a perfect stop, pretty much. 2.5 seconds, a bit slow by Williams standards. We're used to going sub 2 seconds. But, the pit crew, they've worked really hard this season. They are a bit tired. We're going to get George pretty much on a push as soon as we can get him on a push. I did hit the trigger a bit too early, trying to be able to push out the pit lane, which, probably not worth the penalty. But Kubica, as you can see, coming towards the end of his tyre life as well. So, things going smoothly at this stage in the race. A good pit stop for Kubica here, could see him maybe pick up a few places. Russell's come out in 18th, Kubica riding high in 8th, but you can see already, just looking at the timings, this pit stop's probably going to push him back towards the back of the order, a long way towards the back of the order, to be honest. So we get in for the pit stop, and we'll see what happens. It's a shortish pit lane here, and you've got the full battery recharge, tyres straight on, another 2.5 second pit stop. Again, still nowhere near our best, but we make do the best we can. It's kind of the way we have to be at this stage, and you can see we've dropped right to the back of the order again. And we'll get straight on that push, straight out of the pits, go back to George Russell, see what's happening there. He's got clear air, which should be good on a fresh set of tyres, and then we come back round to lap 15, where we're going to find George Russell having a bit of fun. He's in 14th, he's got a whole bunch of cars around him, most of them have stopped. Kvyat ahead hasn't yet stopped, started on the hard tyres. He's probably got a way to go before he needs to make that first pit stop at this point. But it's still early doors. We're still only 15 laps into the race, but you can see there we're under threat now from Romain Grosjean, who's on the mediums, so he's got a bit more pace in his tyres, a bit more grip in the tyres, and he's kind of swarming over the back of us, desperately wants to get through, because he knows it's a Williams on hard tyres. He should be able to push his way through that quite easily. And he starts having a look into the inside of the final hairpin. You can see that George is struggling for pace on the hard tyres. I did question whether or not I should have had maybe an extra stop and thrown another set of mediums and a set of softs in there. But you have to take a gamble. You have to try and get through as few pit stops as you can. You see George has slipped back down to 15th as Grosjean gets past him quite easily. There's a big battle going on behind as well between Bottas and Verstappen, which you'd like to think they were going to be pushing higher up the order, but they're still behind us in terms of pit rotation as well. They've already been through, and Bottas right behind us, right on the gearbox, just going to power past. As much as it's two Mercedes engines, that Mercedes, when it fully opens up, just has the power to do whatever it likes. You can see Bottas there, looking like he wants to make a move straight away on Grosjean as well on the way through this final corner. Being on the hard tyres is certainly not slowing Valtteri down. And we're trying to fight with Bottas. Both got past Grosjean again, but we know Grosjean's got the pace to beat. I think we've just kind of used the slipstream, used that bit of toe to get through with Bottas. But now we go straight back to defending. We're not going to keep up with Valtteri. Straight back to defending from Romain Grosjean. We're very, very aware that we've got Verstappen as well behind us, between us and Kubica. It's a tough race. It's a tough race. Still not, I'm always a bit dubious when I say you've got a perfect setup on the car as well. I mean, I feel like both these drivers have what they claim are perfect setups for them, but I'm dubious as to whether they really truly are perfect setups, because I can't help thinking maybe a bit less wing, a bit more, a few higher gear ratios. Maybe we could have done a bit more with some straight out pace, found a bit more pace in the car. And we're going to skip forward now to lap 22, where we see a battle starting to form between Russell and Kubica. George has really kind of slipped off a little bit. He's reached a point where he's slipped back so far that even though he had so much extra speed on Bobby as he went through qualifying, now Kubica has managed to pick up the pace in the race. He's starting to have a look at his teammate, maybe show that little bit of experience, maybe show that little bit more nous, and he really wants to start making an impact here. But it's good to see teammates battle. It helps you to make decisions about whether or not who you're going to keep, how you're going to make use of these drivers next year. See, I told him to push a little on the tyre wear, partly because I want them both to get past Albon, whose tyres are about to drop off. Maybe see if we can pick up some places as we go through, and we know he's going to have to pit very soon, just looking at that tyre wear. Because he is dropping back. He's sort of 0.3, 0.4 ahead of George Russell. But also Kubica, he's pushing up hard on George. George is having to try and simultaneously overtake Albon and defend against Kubica. When we come into the corner, you see Albon decides to make the pit stop. Hopefully it doesn't become too much of a moving chicane as he heads into the pits. You see Russell pushes past him very easily. Coming out of that turn, Albon's tyres finally went off, I think, coming out of that turn. And Kubica as well is going to try and push through. He does have the pace for it, he's got the tyres for it. And there you go, he's clean through as well. And so the battle continues. And a bit cheeky by Kubica as well, really, blocking that pit entry, making Albon brake so he can make that turn in. But Russell up into essentially 14th for now. Ricciardo's also in the pits. He's gone for a set of softs, which means he's going to be coming up behind us very, very quickly as he makes his way out of the pits. Then you can also see that Magnussen is trying to join the fight as well. He's going to throw in and really sort of make us start to look a bit silly. The Haas team haven't had a great season. We're all trying to overtake each other now. We're trying to get involved with the Haas team. Bit of a three-way fight there for 13th. But the fight between Russell and Magnussen has brought Kubica right into it. See how close together they are there. I mean, it's 0.1 of a second separating three cars as we come out of that turn. And we just keep going. I always have this fear that whenever a car gets past us, we just let them disappear off into the distance. Like we don't seem to want to immediately fight back. Daniel Kvyat cutting a corner, getting himself a nice little penalty there. It's not really helped him as Perez and Giovinazzi go into the pits. We should be able to take them both on the way through. And you can see there's a real mix of ideas. Perez and Gio both dropping down to the conserve modes as they go in to change tyres, which is an interesting choice. We're now battling for 12th, Kubica and Russell. As 11th starts to slip away, Magnussen really starts to make his way off into the distance a little bit. Because the two teammates have got so interested in fighting each other that they're not thinking of the team strategy. Where ideally you see Kubica's found his way through on George Russell. Ideally what you want is for them to kind of be almost playing leapfrog a bit, towing each other down the straights, trying to find each other's, a little bit more speed. But instead they're fighting for position, and that's never ideal. See Russell going for another pass on Kubica, but kind of being forced a little bit wide. Kubica on the racing line, there's nothing you can do, you can argue about that. Kvyat's coming for a pit stop and starts to drop back as well. And you can see, in terms of the pit cycle, Magnus is on pretty much the same strategy as we are. It's not going to be a lot we can do in the pits. Obviously Verstappen, Hulkenberg, Grosjean ahead of us, Raikkonen all needing to make stops, Leclerc as well. There are definitely places to be had through the pit cycle, but you see we'll skip forward to lap 34 as George Russell makes his way into the pits, or will make his way into the pits very shortly. You see that we're calling him in now. Another set of hard tyres. Reckons we're going to get 26 laps out of it. We'll see how that goes. Fully recharge the battery. Fastest possible pit strategy. Should be battling Grosjean and Kvyat as we come out, which is not what we want to be really, 18th, 19th. But still, we're not even at half distance in the race yet as we make this stop. Get Russell on the push again. Kubica will obviously come in the following lap. I've had them on that strategy the entire time. These tyres can go down pretty much to the rims, and they'll still keep some pace as well, which is one of the benefits of the hard tyres. See what Magnussen still hasn't pit ahead of us, so we're going to try and go the undercut on him as well. Maybe get the undercut on Lando Norris, who's got to come in at some point very soon as well. But Hamilton is away and clearing. He's on more or less the same strategy as Vettel, and he's 20 seconds clear of him at this point in the race. So, really got to run around race. You see Russell's tyres sort of start to drop off a little bit towards the end of this lap. Bit of a push going into the pits just to try and improve our time as our position as we come out. And Magnussen is coming for the pits at the same time as us. There we go. Give Kubica the instruction that he's coming in next. Another quick one. Fully recharge the man's battery. See what we can do to push here. So we'll give him a good ERS boost as well as we go down the home straight. Pushes him up into 5th, but of course it's a very provisional 5th, and another good stop for George Russell. Again, banging those 2.5s. Still a little slower than we'd like to be. I'd like to be picking up that extra sort of 6/10 in the pits. But we have a sort of limited scope for rotation with our pit crew at the moment. So we'll make the best of it. George Russell comes out straight into blue flags as Lewis finally sort of starts catching up with him. They find themselves catching up, and Lewis is solidly a lap ahead. But all is good. We're going to follow Kubica into the pits and see if he can have a good stop. All we really ask him is a good stop. You can see Leclerc is coming through fast. He's on way less worn hards. Lando Norris made his way into the pits ahead of us. I mean, he's solidly 3 seconds up on us. It's not something we're not gonna jump him in the pits by any stretch of the imagination. But if we can come out that a little bit closer to him, then that's still a win. And Lance Stroll is also coming to fresh tyres. See, it's basically a 2-second gap between us and Norris, and George Russell takes the lead for the team again. It's a good push. I mean, there's still a few guys ahead. Kvyat and Ricciardo still need more tyres. Bottas, he's not going to drop back far enough to meet us halfway. And Kubica is a lap down. What I mean about starting with that short fuel is we were going to go a lap down. It was always kind of inevitable. So being prepared for that, fueling a little bit lighter, just so we've got the ability to at least try and stay a little bit competitive at our place in the field. See Bobby Kubica pushing through with that ERS again. Also because I left him on the attack road on tyres, so that's wasn't very smart. Wasn't very smart at all. But we let Hamilton go, and then we come back on lap 50. We've got some good action going on here. See, we'll go back to George Russell in just a second. We're riding an 11th. George Russell starts to defend against Kimi Räikkönen in the background, so we are going to go cut to him in just a moment and see what's occurring back there. There's not a huge gap between Kubica and Russell, so we're just kind of hoping that George can hold station a little bit. That's basically the name of the game. Kubica up into ninth with another pit cycle going on. Verstappen just coming out. Russell won't quite make it up there. He's lost that position well and truly. Verstappen as well has made one extra pit stop on us at this point. So, you know, a real mix of strategies going on, a real mix of ideas and plans, and there we go. We're going back to George Russell now, riding in 10th. Kimi just behind him, looking to make some kind of challenge. Wouldn't expect George Russell to have the talent or the experience necessarily to hold off a former world champion, but that Alfa is also not a great car. I mean, we've seen it working with Giovinazzi. We've seen Räikkönen push it to some great length. There you see he hits the ERS and he's on his way, but George is fighting back because George is a scrappy one. Picks up 10th very briefly going through the hairpin, but you know, Räikkönen's got the line, he's got the run on him. It's a real battle emerging right now, and you know, we feel pretty good about George as a driver, I think, at this point. We're gonna skip ahead on the track to Kubica very shortly as well, I believe, because he's also in a bit of a scrap with Max Verstappen. So it's all going on. All the big stars scrapping with the Williams. You can see there we've got the inside line on that corner, but Max is on a set of mediums, a fairly fresh set of mediums as well compared to our sort of 2/3 worn hards. He's got some pace, he's got the straight line speed in that car regardless, and there's not a lot left you can do there really. We're just going to have to accept it and watch Max disappear into the distance, because that's pretty much what Max does at this point. Like you can see, our engine is starting to get worn. A few warnings will start popping up at various stages. We've had a little bit of a screen freeze. No one knows why there's a screen freeze, or indeed why I didn't take the time to edit it out. We'll enjoy the fact that we've got time to look at the order. We're 3.5 ahead of Räikkönen at the moment with Kubica, and George Russell is 0.3 down on Giovinazzi. So some real changes going on in the race. It's a shame with Motorsport Manager you can't have kind of a picture-in-picture thing where you can see both your cars at the same time. If anyone ever gets around to making a sequel, that'd be quite a nice feature to throw in there, I think. But you see, we're going to start pushing, accepting defeat in terms of Verstappen, going down to the medium, and now we're back with George Russell, who is in the middle of a battle on lap 55 with both of the Renaults. Ricciardo ahead of him, Hülkenberg behind him. Shouldn't have the ability to do anything really about this, because they're both on softer tyres than us. Hülkenberg is on fairly new soft, so he should have a lot of pace. You'd expect him to even overtake Ricciardo with that kind of setup. Ricciardo does need to make a pit stop. Quick kind of consideration that we're sort of heading towards the pit window. I was starting to wonder whether or not I could maybe stretch George long on his stop, because I did have the idea of bringing him in on lap 58 for mediums. Started to think about whether I could push both the drivers back a lap, maybe bring them both in or double stack them for a set of softs to go to the end, but it wasn't really to be, and you can see there I kind of had to admit defeat. There were 13 laps going, I was only going to get 11 off any of the sets of softs, which again is another reason why I should be using the harder tyres, those sighter laps in qualifying, because a fresh set of softs here would have taken us to the end. So we had to go for the mediums, but it gives us a chance to push. Also had to replace the suspension because that was about to go. So it's only costing us one place. It's only costing us about 5 seconds in terms of pit stop time. So not a disaster, having a little bit of a fresher car. And you can see I'm still still toying with the idea of whether or not a set of softs here on a conserve mode would have made it to the end. Decided to keep it as is. Really push on the in-lap, just to see if we can pick up any time at all on Hulkenberg as we come through. You can see there Hulkenberg is just... We are keeping Danny Rick behind us. I think he may have come into pits for tyres before us actually. But we go into the pit stop and we'll see and hope against hope we can get a good one. Kimi Räikkönen also in the pits just ahead of us. So as Russell makes his way down the pit lane, it feels like it just takes forever to get down this pit lane. There we go, we're looking at Kubica. Kubica, he can make a set of softs work here. I don't know why I spent so long considering the hard tyres. I think it was for the bonus, but he has got enough on that brand new set of softs that he can make it to the end. Thought about doing an engine replacement, then remember that it takes, you know, solidly 40 odd seconds or 10 seconds. We've got a good pit crew. Adds 10 seconds to the pit stop. Might have been worth it for being able to just fully push to the end. But you don't want to take unnecessary risk. I mean, the engine had enough in it to make it to the end. We say another clean pit stop for George Russell. With the repair there, you'll see we're coming out at 7.6. It's not the best pit stop you're going to get in your life, but when you've got to make that change, you've got to make that change, and the suspension did need a good repairing. So George Russell there, you're going to see coming out low in 17th. Disappointing for him, but you know, we've still got 11 laps to go. There's still a few stops to be made ahead of him. So not all bad, not all bad. We can't be too negative about it. We had to make that change to get the car to the end of the race, I think. I don't think that 20% suspension was going to make it to the end. And you see Kubica now coming in for his pit stop, regularly scheduled on lap 60. So they did come in a lap later than I intended to. Hulkenberg follows him in, which means we'll at least maintain that position as long as all goes to plan. So here we go for the pit stop, and nice, clean, easy, made it out. Really good stop for Kubica, and we're away and free and clear. I think Russell may have had a mistake on his pit stop. Just occurred to me. May have had a mistake on his pit stop right there. We'll explain a little bit of why he dropped back so far beyond where he was expected to. But it's fine. Straight out of the pits, Bobby Kubica on the ERS. Let's get a good push going, see if we can get past Räikkönen on his slightly worn set of softs. He won't be losing a lot of grip at this point, but you know, that ERS should give us enough power there, you can see, to be able to kind of get our way through and see, you know, see if we can hold that position. Kubica on his day, back in the day, was always good enough to kind of hold off the big boys where he wanted to. And you see we've leapt forward a bit to lap 63 where George Russell hunting down Sainz and Stroll and Gasly and Hulkenberg. Phone decides to start. You see a beautiful push on the ERS, and he's gone for a triple overtake, brings himself up into 14th, which is remarkable. A triple overtake in one corner. When George turns it on, George turns it on. That's absolutely beyond doubt. And you can see we've got a bit of a surplus on fuel. I was very aware of certain parts coming close to failing on the cars. The reliability is something I need to work on. I need to get out to 100% reliability on all the parts before the end of the season. Just to be able to see if we can maybe do a little bit more in terms of being able to push on the engine modes. See, I've sent Russell up into a slightly higher engine mode, just to see if we can get some fresh air between us and Carlos Sainz. He's not in a position really with 7 laps to go to get anywhere near catching up to Räikkönen. Kubica ahead is 3.6 behind the points, which is not a place we want him to be. And we rejoin on lap 65. You can see that Hulk has made a good run to catch up to Bobby Kubica and start kind of challenging for that 11th place. I think maybe he thinks he's got the pace to get to the back of his teammate if he can just get past Bobby Kubica. It's a good scrap here going into the first real turn of the lap. There is that little kink on the home straight, but it's the first real turn of the lap, and real fight for Kubica here, just to keep Hulk behind him. It's 2/10 of a second. It's not a massive gap by any stretch. You see Hulk having a look down the inside, thinking maybe he can get something out of this as he pushes through, getting the elbows out a little bit. Hulk tries to force him, Kubica tries to force him a little bit offline. Real battle going on, they're getting really close, and Raikkonen, who will take advantage of any opportunity he's given, tries to fight his way through. And we're about to go almost 3 wide through this corner. See, there's a real scrap there. Hulk is ahead in 11th, he's got that push. We'll give the ARS a little bit of a tap, use what's there, see if we can maybe force our way back through into 11th. If we can get a good turn in here, we can take it. See there, Kubica's taken it on the way into the turning. Got his brakes in early, but we're now 3 wide. And it's Raikkonen here who is the big winner on this one. Got a bit of an engine warning coming through from Kubica, but that was to be expected. We knew we were really pushing that engine a bit too far. But yeah, Raikkonen found his way through. Kubica staring at the back of him. Hulk still looking for that scrap. It's a good old fight towards the end of the race here, and we really need to start kind of pushing away and trying to make the best of it. And we see a little bit of a skip forward here. We've managed to keep Hulk behind, but Hulk inexplicably, with a lap and a half to go in the race, a lap really because we've been lapped, decides to come in for a fresh set of tyres, which really kills off his race a little bit. It was kind of a strange decision. You see Kubica there coming through on 11th, really pushing up against Raikkonen. He's got a little bit of ERS to play with, but not a lot. The race end comes up on the screen there. George Russell also up into 13th, and we see Kubica pushing through. Decides to have a go, takes Raikkonen. Couple of corners left to go. Not going to make it to Ricciardo, who's got a solid 7 seconds on us. But we've managed to force our way up into 11th, coming around the final corner, and really just got to fight, push all the engine modes up, push everything up, get everything out of this car, pull away. Kimi hits the ERS, we've crossed the line, and 11th place for Kubica, and a very, very creditable 13th place for George Russell. Very good race. Kubica surprising me as he does occasionally, and being the raciest of our drivers. You have to wonder if Russell hadn't had to make that change of suspension, or had what we think was a mistake in the pits, maybe he'd have been able to get up into that points position, but I think he would have just been in that fight with Kubica all the way through the race, and it probably would have held us both back. So past scrutineering, no issue there, was never in doubt, and confirmation there. Hamilton wins the race. Vettel, Bottas, Leclerc, Verstappen, Giovinazzi, Lando Norris, Grosjean, Magnussen and Ricciardo getting the points. We've taken 11th and 13th, sandwiching Raikkonen. Sainz was behind us though, so not too shabby so far. 14 points for each of our drivers on the drivers' standings, 11th and 12th. Probably flatters our performance as a team, but you see we've dropped down into 6th in the Constructors' Championship, and Alfa are starting to pull away. We've really got to start worrying about Haas behind us. But, not too bad. I don't think anything major came through on the old news. Apparently someone put a bet on us to win stuff. They say a fool and his money are easily parted, and it's definitely a fool with his money there. And these are the driver improvements for that race. Nothing really happening for Russell in terms of improvements, or for Kubica. Starting to max out a little bit. We've made another loss, but it's a sustainable loss. It's definitely sustainable. More confirmation of what's going on in the World Championship. And yeah, I think that's pretty much going to do us for this episode. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, I highly recommend you hit the like and subscribe buttons. Ring the bell for updates whenever I release new content on the channel. See, we do a little quick interview here. We'll do that. Got time to answer questions? Sure. After doing any thoughts on Lewis Hamilton, we're always going to say that we'd like to work with him, just in case we find the money to bring him in. But yeah, thank you for watching, guys. Hit the like and subscribe buttons for more content, and I will see you all very soon. Until next time, I've been Chasing Lamely. Have a good one.